I recently found out there's something I like better than talking. It's hearing the sound of my own voice. So this is a great amplification for me, so thank you very much. I used to get kind of nervous before talks, and I don't know if you guys have ever gone on stage and you get that moment about 2 minutes before you're talking, you're like, do I have to pee? I don't think I have to pee, but what if I'm wrong? And even though I do investments and there's a lot of volatility, I don't like volatility in my life. So the only way I found to solve this is right before I start my talk, I drink 32 ounces of water. I'll wait. Take your time. All right, so why am I here? Let me go back a little bit in the story. This is my dad, and this is a few years before he passed away. Even in retirement, he was working in a children's museum, children's science museum, where kids could have hand-on, and always loved science, taught me to love science. His claim to fame, at least for me, is he helped design the Saturn V rocket. Now, there was like 40,000 people doing it, but still, I'm pretty impressed. And my mom was getting ready to move out of her house, and my wife was there today, and she found a 1967 NASA coffee mug they had saved all these years, and so I'm pretty choked about it. I think it's pretty cool. So when I was growing up, I learned that my dad is a stock picking genius. And when I came home from the first year of college, he sat me down to show me where everything was invested in case he got hit by a truck. I could take care of mom and my brothers. And I found this stock, and I said, what happened to this stock? And he goes, oh, it went down. Why don't you sell it? Well, it costs more to sell it than it's worth. And I'm like, I don't remember that story around the dinner table. How did that one get? So even in investing, we have things where people remember the hits and they forget the misses. Just like most people think they're better than average drivers. Or many think they last longer than 3 minutes. It's these weird things. Thank you for getting that joke. I really appreciate it. So I teach people how to money. And what I learned by looking at my dad's investments is he was doing what most people do. They significantly underperform. I'm back to finance now. And it's about 4%. They had to perform 4% per year. So I thought, well, how does that happen? So I started this lifelong journey of figuring out how investments are supposed to work. I never came at it from a sales pitch thing, but I found out, really, this is how to money. You save, which means spending less than you make, right? Invest, you want those to be as good as possible. That's what most people pay me to help them with. And the one I can't really help with is time. When someone comes to me 5 years from retirement, and they say, I want to get started saving for retirement, I ask them what their thoughts about a single wide are. Because that's about all you're going to be able to afford. If you're new to investing, I recommend this book. And I'm going to walk even more places just to really fuck with the video guy. That guy works, right? Real sexy. People make fun of him, and I tell them, I don't give a fuck. The Richest Man in Babylon. If you've not done investing, if you don't know why you need to save, that's the book you want to get. There's a couple of reasons. One, it's fun and easy to read. You don't want to start off with something that's got a ton of math if you're not a math person, and then you don't want to look anymore. This explains it in basic, fun stories. It's enjoyable to read. It gets a little repetitive in the middle. It's trying to make a point, and then it gets back to being fun with stories. So check that out if you're new to investing. I call what I do investing skeptically or science-based investing. A lot of what I talk about, you can go double check, or you can ask me and I'll give you a citation. One of the things I talk about is market returns, and you can go to Wikipedia, S&P 500, and see for yourself that the numbers I'm giving you are correct. I didn't even say anything funny. Why are we giggling? Who's doing that? The jokes I haven't even told yet. That's great. You should be in every audience. Just for disclosure stuff, I'm a registered investment advisor since 1996. The state of Illinois requires that I tell you that I'm a registered investment advisor, but then I have to tell you that doesn't mean shit. I filled out a form and I passed the test. This information is for educational purposes only. This does not constitute any investment advice, so don't do anything I tell you. consult with your own financial advisor. Past performance does not guarantee future results. And of course, we got a lighthearted moment here. The businessman goes to the man in the mountain and says, buy low, sell high, stay diversified. That's it. Yeah, in some ways it is. You don't want to make it too complicated. Recently I had on my show, The Phil Ferguson Show, an author of a book called Index Card Investing. Everything you need to know can be written on an index card, and they wrote a whole book about it. So, I thought that was kind of funny, thank you. You can play it all on. This is what I get for following Jerry. He promised me he wouldn't preach. He promised.
They made him.
They made him. Yeah, it took a lot of coaching him. Someone telepathically said, Jerry, would you preach? He said, yes, I will. I've heard your calling. The first thing I'm going to talk about is guaranteed mutual funds, and I found out that in this room is a high school math teacher, Ethan. Buddy, friend, come on up here. Give Ethan a big hand. He has graciously not refused to come up on stage. Uh-oh. Here, hold the clicker for a second. Wow, he's good at that. All right, you can count? All right, we're gonna do a test. Don't do anything with the clicker. Don't do anything I would regret. Now I need you to count that, and you should come up with $140. Yeah, it's out of order. I should have made it bank face and unbank face and backwards. I'm having an hour here, dude. No pressure. How y'all doing? Having fun? Isn't Ethan great? They were telling me there's rules of what you can say to pretty girls in high school. It was kind of weird. 140. 140. Short-term memory problems, but it's okay. That happens when you turn 50. Yeah, you know, they say memory is the second thing to go. What? How much do you have?
139.
Okay, how much do you have?
139.
Please count again. Math, huh? Teach math. Oh, here, add this in. Okay, no. Well, my mistake. All right, come over here so we can be in the beautiful bright light. Bring the money, dude. All right. You're going to invest for 10 years. Oh, by the way, it's one of those things that a lot of investments people don't buy, they're sold to you. So someone convinces you it's good. And this, you love this investment because you're going to make 40% in 10 years. You're going to start with $100. And 10 years later, you're going to have $140. How much do they give you?
140.
140. This is the amount of money he expects to have after the 10 years. If the market goes up, you could make more, but you won't. They always tell you it's a new product. This is the newest thing. And they'll often tell you, if you don't get this by Friday, the company is going to realize how good it is and take it off the market. Yeah, right. Stocks and bonds, AAA bonds. It's really safe, really secure. Sounds good so far, right? You love it. Oh, it's partly in index funds. That's the big buzzword because it's fucking awesome. You want to use index funds, but they mention that it's part of it. As soon as they have something that contains index funds, it means it's no longer a fucking index fund. So it just has to be an index fund. All right, Ethan, did you read the prospectus? No, no one reads the prospectus. 72 pages, but then you pull up the back page and sign it to say that you read and understood everything in it, like that's gonna happen. It's like when you get update Windows or, what is it, iOS? You know, it just says click here to say you agree. Sure, why not? Take my firstborn, I don't care. And if you pull out early, like a good Catholic. Thank you. Been waiting all day to use that joke. You lose 10% of your money. People buy investments all the time that have penalties to get out, and it fucks with your head. And it doesn't matter necessarily how much money you're losing, you can't get past this penalty. So they know they've got you. So you expect to make 140. I forgot to tell you, it was in the prospectus, you read it of course. Right? There's an 8% load on this investment. So an 8% load means that you have to pay me $8.
Just 8% of the original.
8% of the original. See, he's good. He is a math teacher, I can tell. Is that 8? Should I trust you? You couldn't count the last time. Oh, shit. All right, so Ethan, real loud so the audience can hear you. How much money did you invest initially?
100.
Wrong. How much money did you invest initially?
92.
Oh, he is good. Most people don't figure that out. You turned over $100. They take 8% right off the top. So you're going to make 40% on 92. You're not going to make 40% on 100. We're going to call that $3. So we're getting ahead of the fun here. So you got to give me $3 more. Just give me the 5. Like you care about the change. All right, here you go. Now the other thing is that most index funds most funds have an expense ratio of 1.5 to 1.6. However, you can get an index fund with an expense ratio of 0.09% from Vanguard.com, which pays me nothing to tell you how awesome they are. This has a little bit higher than averages. Look at this, look at this. I wish someone could take a picture of this. You'd like OCD over here with this money. That's beautiful. I should just come over and kick the table over. So it's 1.8% a year, and you're going to stay in for 10 years because of the penalty. All right, math man, 1.8% per year times 10 years? 18, so you get $18. Give me the 20. I don't think I'm going to play Monopoly with you. I'm scared already. Now, he doesn't mind these fees because, first of all, he probably doesn't even know about them or he forgot about them and he didn't read about them. But he's so happy with me because I'm so sweet and he loves his product. Now, Ethan, do you have a car? You do? Do you have insurance for your car? I mean, you got to pay for the insurance to protect the things that you want. And this is a guaranteed mutual fund. It's protected. Guess who's it protected by? It's protected by Ethan. Yeah, how much is it? It's 1.5% a year or just $15? 10 and a 5. Just a 10, yeah. First time on stage. He's got to get the ones, he doesn't want the fat wallet of the ones. He's got a Stanza wallet over there with 50 different ones. Now here's my favorite part. You're going to love this part, I promise. Everybody's going to love this. Anyone know what imputed interest is? Okay. Anyone know what a zero coupon bond is? Okay. So a zero coupon bond is a bond that you don't get paid any interest, but it just goes up in value over time. Well, the IRS has decided they can't wait for you to sell the bond to tax you. So every year they calculate the amount of interest you would have been paid if you would have been paid interest, and they charge you tax on it. So they tax you on money you haven't made yet. Right? Isn't that cool? So no one in their right fucking mind buys zero coupon bonds anymore, except for an insurance company. Because you get the tax bill, and they get to keep the profit. I know, it's brilliant. That's just 0.8% per year, or a total of $8 overall. He still wants change. There's 10. All right, now we've done some rounding and some estimating. So Ethan, please count up your money. You started with $100. Please tell us again.
88.
He has $88. Ethan, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it very much. Give him a big hand. So when I give this talk, I forgot to. There we go. Right? And people will ask me, is that really possible? And it is. There's an organization called FINRA. So I gotta follow my own thing. FINRA. And it's the watchdog organization for the financial services industry. And it's conveniently staffed with people from the financial services industry. But they have an investor warning page where, if you can ever find it, they tell you not to buy these things. But yet, the vast majority of their members still sell them because they pay great commissions and they make a lot of money with these things. So it's good for everybody. And of course, we've got the dog here suggesting that it's time for him to do the investing, and the owner said start doing the fetching. Maybe do better. Variable universal life. Often one of the things I tell people is that when the title gets longer, you're less likely to actually want to buy it because it gets crazy. Had a guy come in my office one time. I'm gonna call him Stan. Is that an homage to Eminem? I don't know. Thank you for both of you who got that joke. He's 60 years old, he wants to retire in 2 years, and the only money he has is a $100,000 variable universal life policy. And it has on there a little thing that says cash value of $30,000. And he says, what does that mean? And it's one of those many times I'm like, well, if you don't know what that means, why do you have this thing? And he pays $500 every year for insurance, and he has a cash value of $30,000. And I said, at 60 years of age, you can't get $100,000 of life insurance for $500 because the probability of you dying is too large. The insurance company has to charge you more. You're missing something here, Stan. So we call his insurance agent, and he says, oh, the premium each year is $5,000, $6,000. He pays $500, and the rest comes out of his cash value. So Stan's like, I don't understand. What does that mean? I said, Stan, that means if you don't hurry up and die in the next 5 years, you will have no life insurance. He said, but when I bought this, they told me that if I paid $500 a year, I would always have life insurance. And I said, I don't doubt that they told you that, but they also told you, assuming A, B, and C happen. And one or more of those things didn't come true, so now his life insurance policy is going to go to 0. So there's some fun for you. Anybody seen this? Guesses? Anyone? Bueller? Creation Museum. My good buddy Ken Ham's little House of Horrors. Horrors? Wow. Yeah, how little one little sound makes a difference. Like index funds, we also have insurance. You should always get term insurance. And the insurance company knows that a lot of people have now learned that they want term insurance, so they create term with benefits, like Term Plus and return of premium term. And this entire talk, I've been waiting to try out this new bench here. So hang on a second. How you guys doing? Boy, it's cozy. So return of premium term, you pay a little bit more, but you get all your money back. So if you buy normal term insurance, like your car insurance, you could pay insurance every year for 30 years, and as soon as you stop paying for your car insurance, you have no car insurance. No big deal. But somehow, the industry has convinced us that when you buy life insurance, you must also invest. And so return of premium, what it will do is you pay for 30 years, and if you live 30 years, you get all of your money back. And it sounds intuitively very cool. You can have your cake and eat it too. You pay for 30 years. If you die, you have insurance. If you don't die, you get your money back. So I like to look at the math behind things. And this term policy might cost $538, and the return of premium might cost $1,100. But it doesn't matter what you pay, right? Because you get it all back. So you're going to get $33,000 back if you live 30 years. So who cares how much you're paying? I'm going to really push the boundaries of what's comfortable, going all the way up the side. Now you're torn. Do you look at me or the screen? If instead you invest that money and make 10% a year, you could have $100,000. So instead of getting back to 33, after 30 years, you could have $101,000. So by show of hands, who now wants the 33 instead of the 101? Okay. This is another example. What I tell people, insurance companies tend to make more money with your money than you make with your money, which is really cool because you provide the money and they make more off of it than you do. I was standing in line at a grocery store, and the thing that always scares me about shopping is there's like normal people there. I once went to a store here in Arkansas, and anyway, I went to the store and I bought something and it happened to cost $3.34, and I handed the cashier a $10 bill. Oh wait, do the math in your head. The change comes up $6.66. Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you want to buy a piece of gum? Do you want to take something back? And I'm like, no. I want 666 from you. And I went out my car and laughed my ass off, and I seriously thought about going back in and buying it again. I'm just a sick fuck, that's why. Anyway, this guy Jim tells me that his dad died a couple years ago, and sadly my first thought was, new client. Oh, and he left him like $500,000-$600,000. But one of those rare moments, I did the right thing and I said, I'm sorry for your loss. And he said, that's okay, I bought an annuity, which is what we were talking about before with this math game with the Monopoly money. And I said, really? He said, yeah, they gave me a signing bonus. He invested $600,000, and they gave him $15,000 in cash when he signed the contract. And he smiled from ear to ear, and I'm like, you didn't get drafted by the fucking NFL. Where do you think the $15,000 came from, Jim? It's your money. Of course, that's inside my head. Outside of my head, I'm like, oh, that's very nice. Because I'm in the line at the grocery store, what am I going to do? Break this poor guy's heart. And then he tells me that he made $30,000 that next year. That happened to be 2013. It was a year that the market went up 32%. On $600,000. He could have made $180,000. He made 30, and he was happy. Okay. Another little trivia for you. Anybody know this place? Vatican. And I make the analogy that investing is like religion. They scare you. They sell you the solution. They take your money, and they provide you nothing of value in return. And it's all legal. Now, with the insurance company, they do provide something of value. It's just that they end up making more with your money than you make with your money. But I figured the analogy was good for this audience. When I go to the Methodist church and give an analogy, I might take this part out. But people tell me, Phil, the stock market is risky. I'm scared. And if you've ever watched news or, what do they call that phone? Fox News. I went on vacation, and for like 4 or 5 days, the hotel we were staying on had Fox News for breakfast. Man, those donuts sucked. And every day, I'm like, wow, they never mentioned the stock market at all today, and tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. 4 days in a row, they didn't talk about the economy at all. I'm like, the market must be going up. And it's exactly what happened. It doesn't make any news, especially on Fox. So a lot of people think that the market is horrible and scary, and yes, there is some merit to that. But this year, the market is currently up year to date. Most people think it's down because that was the last news story they heard. And since the market's turned around and gone back up, it doesn't make the news. Who cares? They want to tell you what's scary. So I ran into a family friend of mine, Jane. She came over one day and she said, hey, Phil, I followed your advice. Oh, Jesus. That's some of the worst shit I can ever hear. I followed your advice because A, you didn't follow my fucking advice because you obviously did something without talking to me. And then B, she put all the money she had, $5,000, into one stock. And I generally tell people 5% max of your portfolio in any one given stock. And she put 100%. So she's 0 for 2. And she says, but that's okay. I bought the stock at half price. Like, I don't even understand what the fuck that means. I bought the stock at half price. What? And we go on the internet, and we pull up this data, which I'm so delighted I saved, because guess what? The company went bankrupt a few months later. I know you couldn't see that coming. And it's currently trading at 32 cents. She was told it was worth $1, and she was able to buy it for 50 cents. Anybody see Wolf of Wall Street? In Wolf of Wall Street, the broker is limited by law to making a commission of 50%. She invested $5,000. The most the broker could have made was $2,500, selling her $1 stock for 50 cents that currently trades at 32 cents. She bought 10,000 shares. Down here we got this little number here. This is how many shares sell in a week. 5,000. So she goes to sell her shares. She wants to sell twice the average weekly supply of shares that are transacted. She will drive down the price probably to 10, 15, 20 cents to get rid of them. You'll love this, it gets better. Just wait. The company is working on a proprietary technology to harvest the constant, powerful static electricity that is continually formed in the Earth's atmosphere. Free energy. If she was a skeptic, she would have started laughing if she still didn't understand all the numbers. A high-altitude weather balloon with a conductive cable in constant contact with the ground unit. They're going to float a weather balloon several miles up into the atmosphere and with this cable, collect the charge difference. Anybody know when there is a really good charge difference between the atmosphere and the earth? Storms, lightning. What happens to weather balloons and violent thunderstorms? They get shredded. And what happens when one drops 5 miles of cable onto the city below? What could go wrong? I found this on their website, which I'm so glad I captured because the company went out of business. But they got the little cable, and it comes down and it plugs into the floating city planet thing here. All off one balloon. Woo! Isn't that awesome? This is what she invested in. See, do I have? Okay. So she invested in this, and I said, you need to go ask for your money back. And she's like, what? I said, you go to the broker and you say, hey, I found out you just fucked me, right? No lube, no nothing, you just fucked me. I want the $5,000 back. And he's gonna say, well, honey, that's not how investing works. You put your money in, and maybe it goes up, maybe it goes down. Then you say, I want to talk to your boss. And if your boss doesn't give me the $5,000 fucking dollars, I'm gonna go talk to the Illinois Securities and Exchange Department and tell those motherfuckers what you're selling down here. And they're gonna go, here's your $5,000, ma'am. We apologize for the inconvenience and the confusion. We must have made a simple mistake. And she said, I can't possibly do that. And I said, why not? She goes, he's a member of my church. Now this is a woman who the reason she had $5,000 is she'd stopped paying her mortgage because her husband, I shit you not, literally got caught for embezzling millions of dollars to use on hookers and blow. And their 12-year-old son found it on the computer because he forgot to clear his cookies. Stupid fuck. And she's about to get a divorce, or not, because Saddleback Church says you should never get divorced if you're real Christians. And she stopped paying the mortgage because the house was going to be repossessed, and this was her money she was going to use to put down on an apartment. And the guy that sold her the stock was in her church and knew this information. And he pocketed $2,500, and she wouldn't go back and ask for it. I told her, I'll go with her, I'll say the words, because I like saying fuck. And she said, no, I don't want to ruin his reputation. I know, right? Exactly. Mutual funds are a good way to reduce specific stock risk. So if you own one stock and it's called Enron, or they want to float weather balloons, you could lose all of your money. You are limited to 100% loss though. There's investments you can get, you can lose more than you started with. I can bore you with that later. But how you reduce that specific stock risk, you buy a whole lot of stocks. And you could go and buy 20, 30, 40, 50 stocks yourself. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of expense. Some people use mutual funds. The vast majority of all money that's invested in the United States of America is in mutual funds. But expenses keep going up. And the reason is that if the mutual fund company charges you 1.2% this year, and they decided that they're not making enough money, they charge you 1.3% next year, what do? Nothing. Fucking sheep. You do nothing. You leave the money in there and they go, wow, we just made 8% more profit. Let's raise it to 1.4. And they keep raising the expenses because you never pull out. No, we already did that joke. You never take your money out. So they found a nice, easy way to keep making more and more profit. They just charge you higher and higher fees. So there's all kinds of things. There's the expense ratio that's published in a prospectus that you can get. That is not all expenses. It is only the expenses they are required to by law to disclose in advance. As they incur other expenses, guess who pays them? You do. All of them. They make their profit margin no matter what happens, no matter how much it costs, because you pay it all. 12B1 fees is a fee that you pay the company so that the salesperson can sell the same product to somebody else. I don't know, isn't that great? Trading activity, you pay out for all that. So your expenses, most mutual funds, total expenses are around 2.2%. So the average mutual fund underperforms the market by 2.2% because they are the market. They cannot collectively beat it, they can collectively match it, but they can't because of these expenses. As I mentioned before, Vanguard, they did this nice study, and they did two scenarios. One is you buy and hold every mutual fund for a decade and you do nothing. And the other scenario is you buy every mutual fund, and if it underperforms the market, you sell it and buy a top 20 fund. Not top 20 percentile, but top 20, one of the 20 best funds. And here is one of the examples of the results that you get. This is the total market in that year, and this is what the average person did when they bought and sold mutual funds. So when you change your mutual funds, you actually underperform the underperforming performance of the funds that already aren't matching the market. So good job, investors. Once again, you've underperformed the market by a good 4+%. Buy and hold has the advantage of no tax until it's sold, and your capital gains is probably 15%. If your adjusted gross income is under 62, it's going to be 0. So you can invest and pay no taxes if your returns come through capital appreciation, if you have a lower income. Most mutual funds, however, have a turnover of about 130%. So that means if they have 100 stocks, they bought and sold 130 times during the year. And because they're trying to beat the market constantly, almost all of your gains will be ordinary income. And you'll pay 28, 30, 35, 40%. So even when they underperform the market, you could have dramatically higher taxes. Pretty cool. There's some more math, we're going to skip that. So here is an example. I talked about average fund underperforms 2.2%. I'm going to call it 2, be charitable. The average investor underperforms 2.3%. That was the best quadrant in that Vanguard study. If you want that, I can send you a link to it. And then after taxes of 25%, and if you make more, your tax rate's going to be much higher than this. The average investor returns 4.3% in a taxable account when the market goes up 10. And you think, okay, well, 4.3 is slightly below half, so I'm underperforming a little bit. But let's look at what happens over 30 years. You start with 10,000, you could have 174, but instead you end up with 35. 1/5. Because of the compounding. We live in a very linear world. I mean, cashiers can't even subtract $3.34 from a $10 bill. How are you going to figure this out in your head? I had to use a spreadsheet myself. I knew it was going to be bad, but holy moly. 1/5 of the money. So you invest for 30 years and you're like, God, I really didn't make that much money. Well, all those factors were killing you each and every year, and you didn't even know they existed. You didn't understand how they work. Another talk, Justin is kind of my poster boy for investing. Came to me at 22. He's only making 40 grand a year, and he decided to invest 25% of his income every year. Unfortunately, we did that right before 2008. The market fell 37%. And I remember after 4 years of putting in money, it had grown to 45, and within 1 year, it became $28,000. And he called me and was like, Phil, what happened? And I said, this is a long-term game. I tell people all the time, it's the tortoise versus the hare. Slow and steady, really boring investment advice wins in the long run. Now the nice thing is he stayed in, kept adding money, and after 10 years, he had $184,000, even though he'd only put in $100,000. And I remember him saying to me, he's like, well, Phil, I make 40 grand a year. I could live on this for 4 years. And I said, you're living on a budget of 30 grand a year. You can live on this for 6 years. So it's not always just how much you save, it's the ratio of how much you've saved versus how much you spend, which goes back to the first part of how to money. Save, spend less than you make. If you earn 10% a year, your money will double in 7 years. It's called the rule of 72s. If you earn 2% a year, it's going to take 36 years. If you earn 1% a year, it's going to take you 72 years. That's why that growth compounds so much. So Justin here, at the age of 39, could have 360,000. At age 46, he could have 720,000. You get the idea. It goes up really fast. Another client came to me, he had $200,000 before 2008 hit. Now he didn't lose 37%, he lost 50%. Guess what Marco did? He pulled out. We did that joke already, sorry. His money went from 200,000 to 100,000, and people say, well, he responded irrationally. I think it's pretty rational. We don't normally lose half of our money. What do you do? You know, he's like, protect what I've got, protect what I can, and he takes out $100,000. And he sat on $100,000 in cash for the next 8 years while the S&P went up 187%. Now, the trick is if the market goes up 100%, your 100,000 turns into 200,000. So his 100,000 would have grown to almost $300,000, but he's now sitting on cash of $100,000. And he says, well, Phil, now what do I do? And I said, you invest. But what if the market goes down now? Like, are you investing for this year or for your lifetime? If it's this year, put it in the bank and make 2% in a CD. So we're going to talk about stock market returns. I love this chart. Again, I got this from Wikipedia. And people talk about, you know, it's nice and slow and steady, and it got a little crazy here, and then holy shit, in the modern day, it gets crazy. This is what the stock market does in the long run. So these numbers are bullshit. It's just like when you go to an anti-vaxxer website and they play games with charts and graphs. That's what this is. And you may not know it, you may not know why that's a game, but it's a game. Now, if they're being a little more generous, they might say, oh, okay, well, this is more reasonable, but the stock market could still be half of what it is today. And then they build conspiracies around it, and since they're using real data, it must be true. Well, the S&P grows as a percentage every year. It does not grow in a linear fashion. This isn't straight linear scale. You have to use a log scale. And when you do, you get times where it's a little above, and a little below, and a little above, and a little below. So based on this, since the 50s, we're about right. Whether it goes up or down next year, I have no fucking clue. The big difference between me and the person on TV is they're lying. They don't know either. If they say I don't know, they don't get to come back on TV. You have to have an answer. Be emphatic. Scare people or make them really happy. Just going, I don't know. Well, that's really boring TV. So I wanted to go over some basic math. We talked about the stock market is risky. These are the best and worst case years in the last 47 years. Again, you can check that on Wikipedia at your leisure, or you can use your smartphone now. The best year, I think that was 95. The market went up almost 38%. In 2008, it went down almost 37%. That's the risk you're talking about if you try the stock market. Someone will call me and say, I want to try the stock market. I'm like, well, you're not going to be a fucking client. Because I don't try the stock market. It doesn't work in the short run. It's very risky. We've talked about that. The funny thing is 80% of all years the market does go up. So people say, when should I start investing? Yesterday would be better, but we can't do that anymore, so today is now pretty good. The average compound growth rate over the last 47 years is 10.47%. Will it be that way for the next 4 years? I don't know. I'm not planning on it being that awesome, but that'd be cool. If you look at the data for the last 200 years, it normally works around between 9 and 11%, depending on how you count it, when you start, when you finish. But it's in the ballpark. I'm worried that we're running out of time, so I'm going to jump to 10-year time period. The best 10-year time period averaged 19% per year for 10 years. Your $10,000 would grow to $58,000. The worst 10-year time period, you lose 13%. These are the probabilities. And I tell people this, and the good skeptics say, Phil, I can't account on my $10,000 turning into $80,000 or $58,000. And I say, you're exactly right, but you can't count on losing 13% either. The odds are the same for both of those numbers. However, you do have a 94% chance of positive returns. There's only been 2 10-year time periods that were negative in the last 47 years. And that ratio holds true for 100 and 200 years. Keep in mind the data older than 100 years does start to get a little sketchy, but it's what we've got. I think I got 20 years. Let's see. No, we got a longer chart. If you go all the way up to 25 years, based on 200 years of data, and you can read that, and a book that I'll recommend here at the end, you are going to make 10% plus or minus 1.4%, one standard deviation. If you're not really familiar with standard deviations, that means 2/3 of the time you're going to make 10% plus or minus 1.4. If you go up to 3 standard deviations, anybody remember how far 3 standard deviations go? Is that 99.5, 99.7? 99.7. You go 3 standard deviations, you are going to make between 5.8 and 14.2, 99.7% of the time. The risk goes down, down, down as you invest longer. So unless you know that you're going to die in the next decade, and maybe some of you do, I'm really sorry to hear that. But if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, you might be investing for a very long time, or at least you want to leave it to someone who will be around a very long time when you're not around. So I had another person come to me, Coretta, and she hated her job, and she was about, I think she was 62. She had just qualified for Social Security. Oh, she was 64. And in 2 years, she would require be able to get full pension from her job. But when she would talk to me, she would be in tears talking about her job. Every day driving to work, she would cry. Driving home, she would cry. Her job had changed, and she was trapped. She needed the money. She couldn't quit. Well, what I said was, well, what happens if you quit today? And she's like, well, I wouldn't get the full pension, and I wouldn't get as much Social Security. And I go, but how much would you get? So we did the math, and we found out that in 2 years, if she retired, she'd make $92,000 a year. Social Security, pension, investment returns, she's going to do all right. If she retires now, she's going to get $85,000 a year. Now, some advisors might tell you, keep working, baby, because the bigger your account gets, the bigger my fee gets, which would be true. But I also believe in the philosophy of enough. Once you have enough, and we talked about her budget, and she needs $75,000 a year to travel some, to pay for all of her bills, and buy her grandkids gifts. So she was able to quit her job 2 years before she thought she could. And I remember her calling me a few months after she quit, and she said, Phil, I owe you 2 years of life. For 2 years, I can go out and garden all day long. For 2 years, I can take a walk in the park. For 2 years, I can take vacations whenever I want. I can see my grandkids. For 2 years extra, the youngest 2 years I have left, I can not work because you help me look at my money a different way. And, you know, that's something that I'm very proud about. Anyone know what this is? Contact. Ethan for the win. One of the basic rules, keep it simple, silly. Invest in what you understand. If you do not understand, do not invest in it. Simple, silly. Low-cost index funds. Use your critical thinking skills. This is why I do this talk. I think skepticism should be applied to more than just Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster. It should be applied to homeopathy, to psychics, economics, investing. It can make all of our lives better if we know how things work. And this is the book that you should buy. Common Sense on Mutual Funds by John C. Bogle. In case you didn't know who John C. Bogle is, he's the founder of the Vanguard Mutual Fund Company, the world's second largest mutual fund company. And to my knowledge, the only mutual fund company that when you invest, you are actually a part owner. They continually drive down expenses and expense ratios, and the bigger they get, the lower their expense ratios get, because their whole idea is to pass the savings on to you. It is not a romance novel or a Harry Potter book. You should not and cannot sit down and read this in 6 to 8 hours, or 12. Some of those Harry Potter books are scary. Meet the size. Anyway, you should read this slowly and patiently. It may take you months. Read a few pages, read a section, read a chapter. Take notes. Look up the words you do not understand. If you know them all, congratulations. And I think that ends the talk, and if I have time left, maybe?
10 minutes for Q&A.
10 minutes for questions, and while we're doing that, we'll leave up some kittens. That's the favorite part. All right, I will, do you have a mic for questions, or should I just field them? Anyone? Way in the back, yes, sir.
Hey, what was the name of the book you mentioned at the beginning?
All right, the question is, what was the name of the book I mentioned at the beginning? It is called The Richest Man in Babylon. It pretends to be like a 6,000-year-old book, but we know that can't be true because of the flood and everything. The Richest Man in Babylon. The nice thing is it is actually quite an old book. I think it's like 80 or 90 years old. So it's out of copyright, so a lot of people publish it, and it will usually cost you about $5.
I think
Justin.
you can download that for free online.
Justin thinks that you can get it free online, and
I'm sure that's
I
what-
would not be surprised because it is out of copyright. It's like a Miracle on 34. No, what's the other one? Anyway, other questions? Oh, somebody must have a question. Anyone? Anyone? Ethan?
How likely do you think it is for someone to invest on their own without like a licensed money?
Well,
Be successful?
if you do some research and study and take your time, you can do quite well. I will have people that contact me and say, Phil, everything you've recommended I already know, and I could do it myself. Why in the fuck should I hire you? I'm like, don't hire me. My services are at will, just like you can go to have someone change your oil. If you know how to do it and you want to do it yourself. There are a lot of people who just look at this and they kind of glaze over and they're like, I'm never going to understand this. I'm never going to do this. I have a spouse, I have kids, I have other shit to do, and I don't want to get ripped off. And so that's the person that might hire me. Unlike most of the business, I didn't mention this, but I'll be happy to say it here. My rate is 1% per year for accounts under $500,000. And some people look at that and go, that's bullshit, that's too high, I'm not paying it. Okay, then don't hire me. But you know what you're paying, and you can make an educated choice. There's no trick. The problem is that the data shows that the average investor underperforms the market. So for example, last year, the S&P 500 went up 1.4%. Something like 80% of people lost money. And the average return was minus 4%. So the average investor last year underperformed the market by more than 4%. And that generally happens year in, year out if you're buying and selling stocks. If you're buying and selling mutual funds, we saw the data on that. That was 4.3 to 4.5% underperforming the market, which actually is pretty close to that data. So whether you're doing mutual funds or your own stock investing, it tends to underperform, and people remember the hits and forget the misses, just like psychics. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
So the way you said that investing is like a long-term game, or are you saying it's better to start earlier, or just...
So the question is it better to start earlier? Fuck yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, it reminds me, what I tell people is, people often hear that you should save 10% a year. Saving 10% a year will take you almost 40 years to save enough money. If you start when you're 22, you're golden. If you're not 22, you're fucked. It's not going to be enough. I call 10% the suck-ass minimum. What most people should be shooting for is 20%. Of course, if you could save 25, 30%, like my example, the guy who's saving 25% of his money in a very short period of time, he might be able to retire at 55. But he also started when he was very young. So how to money, you have to save, you have to invest, and you need time. So the more time you have, the better it's going to be. Like people will ask me, when in the year should I invest? Well, since 8 out of 10 years go up, January 1st. The sooner you put money in, mathematically, the odds are you're going to make money. I recently had a lady call me, and she said, Phil, I just got a $30,000 bonus for my job. Where do I put that money for 3 or 4 years, so that in 3 or 4 years I can buy a new car with cash? I'm like, why the fuck do you want to do that? If the dealership's going to loan you, or the manufacturer's going to loan you money for 1.9%, why don't you want to do that? I said, well, debt is bad. Like Dave Ramsey, I just did a whole hour-long show on Dave Ramsey. Every little detail he says, quite a bit of his stuff I agree with. But there's some very significant points I disagree with. I don't think it's immoral for you to file bankruptcy if your baby needs $200,000 in medical bills. Fuck the man, file bankruptcy, get on with your life. But the $30,000 that she could save, since it needs to be there in 3 or 4 or 5 years, I can't recommend the stock market. It could go down a lot, then she can't buy her car. And then when she buys the car, she saves interest of 1.9% when she could be making 10%. And if you get historical normal market returns of 10% a year, in 7 years that money could double. So in 7 years she could have $60,000 instead of having the money as cash and then paying cash for a car. Same thing, I know it's not necessarily a popular position, but if you have a lot of equity in your house, especially when interest rates are stupid low like they are now, 4%, which is partially tax deductible, you might be paying an effective rate of under 3%. You can refinance your house down to 20% equity. And I have people say, well, Phil, I want the comfort and security of knowing my house is paid for. And I said, I want the comfort and security of knowing I have $500,000 and I could fucking pay for my house anytime I wanted. But, you know, we all have different goals. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Is there not a money that's too little to invest?
Yeah, there might actually be. Probably if you have less than 1,000, you should just keep saving some money until you get 1,000. Vanguard has some what they call target date funds. It'll be like the target date fund 2050, 2045, 2030. You can get into those with $1,000. I don't really like target date funds, but if you only have $1,000, it's not bad. Once you get to 3,000, you get a lot of choices, particularly at Vanguard. Once you get to 10,000, you get lots of more choices. Over 100,000, you get even more, but that's not a starting number. The other thing people ask me all the time, especially in, I don't know if this audience is particularly liberal, but I'm assuming it is. Socially conscious mutual funds don't put any money in them. They underperform even average mutual funds, and they will give you a list of the things that they do and don't do. And one mutual fund might not buy Apple stock because they hire kids in China to do the work. Whereas another one might buy Apple stock because they hire little kids in China and help them out by giving them work. So unless you do all the research, you don't know exactly what their rules are. And there's hundreds of these things now. And then even if you do the research, almost all of them have in the prospectus a little clause that says, we reserve the right to buy what the fuck ever we want, no matter what we told you in advance. Then they underperform the market, and you're not making a difference anyway. Not because your money is small, but when you buy a stock, or the mutual fund that you invest in buys a stock, they're not buying the stock from Philip Morris. They're buying it from somebody else that already owns the stock. The CEOs, the executives, and everybody at Philip Morris doesn't give a fuck that you just spent $1,000 on not Philip Morris stock. It doesn't affect their world in any way. The only thing that you might possibly do, if you've got enough people to all unilaterally not buy Philip Morris, and it pushed down the demand, and stock prices are supply and demand. If the demand goes down, the price would fall until someone saw that the price of the stock was below the actual value of the company, and that douchebag would go in and be the unethical, moral thug that you fucking hate, and you made him a fortune. Congratulations. So don't buy socially responsible mutual funds. Other questions? Yeah, I'm going to keep ranting. Yes, sir.
The cannabis industry, being government won't support their industry, it's cash only. There are some stocks available to buy that are in the cannabis business.
Oh, the cannabis question is about the cannabis business. I'm assuming you're getting to the point, should I buy stock? No. Since I buy broad index funds that are over everything, if one of those companies become publicly traded, I would inadvertently own a share. But once you get into specific sectors, you start to increase your risk. Just like a common thing people have in their investment portfolio all the time is things like gold and oil, not fucking interested. Gold, oil, silver, all these things tend to make inflation. One of the most brilliant marketing slogans ever created is buy gold as a hedge against inflation. That means you're going to make about 3% a year. Well, I want to make 10, so I'm not interested in gold. Will it go up or down in the short run? Yeah, but I don't know which way. So, anyone else? Yes, sir.
You said you didn't like target date funds.
I find them suboptimal.
What would you suggest in other?
Well, without the target date fund, you have to do your own adjustments. So let's say you have 200,000, you can put it in the target date fund and it will balance it for you. I think you can do better on your own. Or more importantly, I think you could do better by hiring me, but that's a biased answer because I make money, so but the problem with the target date fund is a great example. At Vanguard, most target date funds, they will put you in 30% international. Over the last decade, international funds have returned about 4% per year. It's been horrible. Last year, they've been down 15%. And there are certain things that you can see, like for example, another thing, that they'll put a fixed amount of bonds in, and they'll buy all kinds of bonds. And people generally think that bonds are safer than stocks. Well, not necessarily. There's all kinds of bonds. I can buy junk bonds that pay 15% interest, and the reason that person pays 15% to borrow the money is because there's a really big, serious risk that they're going to go bankrupt. And then they default on the bond, and not only do you not get the 15%, but you could lose all the money you put in that bond. The other thing is that even if you buy US government bonds, you buy a 20-year bond, if interest rates go up 2%, the value of your bond could fall 35%. And most people have a hard time with that, so let me give you an example. You invest $100,000 paying 4%. 2 years from now, I can invest $100,000 and it pays 6%. And you want to sell your $100,000 bond. If I buy your bond for $100,000, I can make 4% or $4,000 a year. Why would I give up $2,000 of free money every year by buying your shitty-ass bond? So I have to mark down your bond by a mathematical percentage that equates it to at least the 6%, maybe a little premium for me, and you have to suck it because you're the one that wants to sell. So long-term bonds, even really, really safe ones, can lose huge amounts of money when interest rates go up. And we are at historically low interest rates. So this is not like guessing which way rates are going to go when you're in the middle. It's the lowest it's ever been in the history of the United States. Where are they going to go from here? Odds are they're going to go up, they can't really go down. Anyone else? All right, well, I'll wrap up and remind you, Dogma Debate, full disclosure, I'm a part owner. But you heard it here first. Dogma Debate is up next. We're going to take some time to set up and get that all ready. A great show, and apparently, can I tell them what we're going to talk about?
Yes.
We're going to talk about apparently a teacher in Arkansas, this fine state, that apparently thought it was really nice to play the Passion of the Christ movie instead of educating children, which is not like their job or anything. So we're going to talk about that and many, many other things, including maybe a crazy song of the week. I'm not going to spoil that one, so you gotta hang on for that. So I'll wrap up and thank you for coming to the convention. Make sure you hang out for Dogma Debate. Thank you very much.
You just wrapped up for me, so. Thank you again, Phil. Let's have another round of applause for Phil Ferguson. If you were a little intimidated earlier when you walked by the booth and you saw a bunch of financial stuff, because I know finances can be kind of intimidating, hopefully you are not anymore. So definitely get a chance to talk to him, because we are going to take a little break, and we're actually going to be back here at 6 for a Dogma Debate, 6 o'clock. All right, get here a little bit early so you can get settled in. We'll see Dan Barker and Jerry DeWitt at 6 o'clock, so we'll see you guys soon.